morning. My name is Julia LeFrancois. I'm a senior undergraduate and McNair Scholar here at Cal Poly. My project is titled Embodied Narratives, Bodymind Resistance Through Storytelling. So I really wanted to investigate the impact of storytelling, specifically within marginalized communities, and how it may empower individuals and institute social change within those communities. We live in a world governed by an ableist, cisgendered patriarchy, but our world is and has always been rich in body-mind diversity and non-binary identities. Histories and stories of those communities are shared through a biased lens, often mistelling or omitting truths altogether. Ownership is misplaced, which leads to power over those stories, cultures, and bodies. Now, before I share my predictions, I do want to preface by crediting grounding theory as my analysis guideline. That theory has impacted the route my study has taken, but I'll explain and get more into that in a bit. Initially, what I hypothesized was that the act of telling one's own body-mind story would reclaim power and ownership and would foster community and social change. The design of my study utilized one-on-one interviews where I asked women, Black, Indigenous, and/or people of color, and persons with disabilities about their stories and their histories within our cultures. We interviewed via Zoom, and all of the recordings were kept anonymous, and the interviewers followed the same procedures and had the same amount of training and type of training to ensure inter-rater reliability. So far, the project has interviewed 25 participants between the ages of 18 and 41, with the majority of participants identifying as women. Participants were recruited by snowball and convenience sampling. So for instance, the SONA program at Cal Poly. I also recruited participants by active recruitment. While reviewing existing literature, I came across Brené Brown's experience with grounded theory research, which was created by Barney Glasser and Anselm Strauss. The idea of trusting the emergence of data is that theories are developed based on people's lived experiences rather than proving or disproving any existing theories. This means that instead of starting with a question and hypothesis, we actually start with a topic. We hear the stories, develop a theory, and then just see how and where it fits within the literature. Brené Brown focuses on asking herself as the researcher, what were their main concerns? What were they trying to do? And what were they surprised by? I've read and analyzed all of these stories by using these methods and other methods within diverse and intersectional studies. The results are informed by the frameworks of intersectional feminism, critical race theory, women and gender studies, and disability studies. While there were 4 main themes derived from the data, additional themes to explore in future stages of this project are the role of education in first-person storytelling, patriarchal lessons, and the effects on intersectional identities by the recent Trump administration. The first theme falls under ideological oppression. An interview question asked, in what spaces do you feel comfortable sharing experiences you've had in your body, and why do you think that space felt safe? Some of these answers included, if I join men who are drinking beer, there was a visceral code switch where I feel like I have to lower my voice. I feel like I have to hold my body in a different way. It was a literal shift. Someone else said, I think it's very important to me because I have to live in a cis hetero patriarchal society as a brown Latinx disabled schizophrenic person. The theme of empowerment and liberation was revealed with the question asking, in what ways have you changed by telling these body-mind stories? Someone said, well, now I realized I don't care to try to be something I'm not anymore. Someone else talked about how it feels good that someone was listening, but they never really had this opportunity. And a liberating response was identifying as non binary. Thank you for giving her space to come through and his space to come through and the space for all of me. The third theme of activism and community involvement showed when participants described what this interview was like, what it was like to share their stories. Someone said, it gives me a reason to get more involved in my communities and to learn about them. It motivates me to dive deeper and learn about others' experiences. Another participant poignantly explained, it's pretty, what's the word? It feels like opening. Many of the participants spoke of many types of education. Someone talked about educating their children and how they wanted to educate them differently from the status quo. Others talked about how they wanted to start advocating for themselves and others, or wanting to unlearn certain beliefs that they've been taught. The final theme of inaccurate or an absence of representation came about when participants were asked about how their community stories were represented in their education. One participant said, one of the main reasons I wanted to do this is because I hear my stories, but they're being told by someone else, by men. Someone else said, historically, I didn't see many people like my culture, so that was difficult for me to identify with a bigger figure. Absence of representation was expressed by participants within the LGBTQIA plus communities and disability communities. Inaccurate or a lack of representation were histories of communities of color. Many noted that their community's contributions to history have been completely ignored or glossed over, or that the stories of mistreatment of their communities were downplayed or falsely taught. I do want to thank the McNair Scholars Program and my faculty mentor, Dr. Shayda Kafai, as well as my fellow researcher, Andrea Ramirez, all the storytellers and re-educators who participated, and all of you for listening. Thank you so very much.